Welcome back. Now there is a massive range of different stock investment platforms out there in the marketplace. Most of them offer some very comparative features, admittedly at different levels of prices. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through several of the platforms that I'm familiar with, that I do use on a regular basis. I'm going to talk about what they can do, how you might use them, what would be of interest to different types of investors, and as well as that I'm going to highlight some of what I find are the unique features that may make you very interested in that particular stock investment platform. So we'll get into it today with the first option, and over the coming weeks I'll roll out a few more different videos focusing on some different platforms with different features and functionality. So my friends, let's get into it. Today we are in the FinChat platform. Now I just want to quickly go through some of the overview here of what the organisation does and how they do it and why you might be in for an opportunity with this platform. Now often when you get these platforms, very much the first thing to look at is pricing or the different levels that they have available, and as we go through this as well we can see a range of different functionalities and features here. So for example, for free, a couple of important points here. You've got 5 years of financial data, and I'd say that's the bedrock or the core of most of these. You've got 2 years of what they call segment and KPI data, some AI prompts every month, a single dashboard, some dashboard item events, and global stocks coverage. So for many investors, this could actually be a really powerful way to get to grips with what this platform can do for you. I love the global stocks coverage. That's certainly not something for most platforms that are zero free. Now the plus is a reasonable $29 a month. This is what I'd say is standard sort of entry-level pricing for most of these platforms. Now you'll see here you get a more expansive 10 years of financial data along with 5 years of segments and KPI data. Now this is one of the key differentiators for the platform. We'll get into that as we get into a bit more detail. You'll also get analyst estimates and ratings, as well as portfolio stats and notifications. Now as you bump up to a more considerable $80 a month, you get more years of financial data, 10 plus years of segments and KPI data, virtually unlimited everything. You can also request additional KPIs and coverage for the all-important segments and KPI data, along with custom chart branding, etc. So depending on what you're after, depending on what price point, you might be going either free. You can still get a lot of value from segments and KPIs, sort of a snapshot of where the organisation is today. You might go for plus, and this might be interesting to you if this is your one and only platform and where you're interested in getting a better look at how these companies are trending, or if you really are able to spend a bit more money, I think the pro here. So as we come through here, we've got a fairly clean user interface and a couple of organisations down here. Now we could pick one of these. I do like looking at Realty Income. It's a stock I'm very passionate about. As we search through, it brings up first of all the financials, so we can get a sense of how this company's trending. I like the way in which we can get a very clear sense of the chart, how the company's doing, and it's got what I think is some of the most important, some of the most crucial charts here available for us immediately to look at. And we can see here, for example, a 36% drawdown is one of the greatest drawdowns excluding the GFC, so it's in quite a big drawdown. I think when we look at a lot of these elements here, the financials, there's a lot of data here that I think is appropriate. One of the nice things that I do like about this as well for a real estate investment trust is they do have the FFO and the adjusted ratios, which is really important when you're looking specifically at a real estate investment trust, and so I think that's important. Now as we switch over to earnings, we can get the earnings announcements, and if you've seen some of my videos you'll see I go through these often quite a bit and quite closely. We can pull up reports and we can pull up the slides, and everything is there, everything is slides. Now the analyst tab here is also where I think we can spend quite a bit of time. One of the things I do like about this is the sense that obviously the further out we go into the future, the more uncertain and the bigger the spread of the analyst estimates. We've got mean, median, actual highs, lows, standard deviations, as well as what I consider to be the all-important number of estimates. Now here, for example, I also enjoy looking at the AFFO per share, and so we're talking about, look here, down at the mean AFO per share, we can see the gradual upwards trend. I wouldn't mind seeing sort of percentage gains or percentage increases each year. It would be quite useful here, so it's not what I would consider to be perfect, but it do have a lot of information. And so we can begin to get a sense, for example, there's only one analyst here providing a NAV. So not particularly useful all the time here with the real estate investment trusts. But we can also go over here to the industry tab. Now, this is quite nice as well because it puts realty income up against the key competitors here in the triple net space. And we can expand this as well. And we can go through across here and we can say sort by operating margins, for example. Also add company up here to make a comparison. We can also, I'm thinking that will probably be most of, we've got Agree Realty. I might, for example, want to add Essential Properties, and I can add that. I can also add, for example, the adjusted funds from operation, or the price for adjusted funds from operation. And as I do this as well, we see the data in here, and we can get a very good sense of how the company we're looking at is comparing to the other companies in the industry group. Modelling. This, my friends, is really interesting, really fast. So as we can see here, for example, we may not like the estimates provided here in the system, for example, for maybe the 4 years. So we could actually change the percentage increase here. Now, what we can do as we do this is we can and bake in our own assumptions, and from this as well we can actually then come all the way down and get, for example, the implied upside or downside using this modeling approach. Now this is very powerful and you can do a huge amount with this, so I think for many investors this is something that they do, and this platform brings dividends. Oh golly gosh, yes, we do love our dividends. So flick over to look at the yield over time, obviously. And we can look also, for example, at the total return, which is dividends plus price appreciation. And so we see here over the years it has done very well. Ownership and filings. And again, I can pull up all of the filings that I want to see really quickly. Is that enough? By itself, this is actually quite a comprehensive platform, as we can see here. And so I think for many people, that alone is nice. But what we can also do is we can also go in here under the analysis. Now, one of the things I do enjoy looking at is the segments and KPIs. So let's pull this up for a little bit and see what we can do in here. Also chart out what we want on the chart here, and if we're into a bar chart, line chart, very flexible, and I love the way this presents. It's nice, it's a clean approach. But perhaps some of the key things I like to look at here are the ratios. For example, the price to adjusted funds from operation over time we can see has changed quite a bit, but it certainly seems at a discount. Also importantly is the segments and KPIs. Now, this is where I think things get really interesting. What I'm going to do on the chart is I'm going to take off these other metrics and I'm going to keep that blank. Now, under segments and KPIs, for example, I want to look at the number of retail properties they have, as well as the number of industrial properties, as well as the number of gaming properties and other properties. If we do this as well, we can very quickly see for example, that even though there are some industrial properties here in the portfolio, very much, we can also, for example, look at the door portfolio annualized contractual rent, and again we can see, for example, I think even though the gaming is a relatively small portion in terms of the number of properties, you can actually see that a substantial amount of actual rent. And industrial properties, even though again they're a very small proportion, I think it's a fairly meaningful size or proportion of actual rent. And so we can begin to get a sense of the portfolio, and we can also get a sense of how it's changed over time as well, such as jumps into 2021 for retail, as well as a big jump here in terms of the industrial, as well as beginning to pick up the gaming properties here. So I absolutely love looking at this in terms of the rent here. I think the rest of KPIs in the market sector, and I think this is the most valuable piece of this platform. Now, remember the pricing issues. So if, for example, we only had the $29 a month plan, we've only got 2 years of data. That doesn't give us a trend, but it gives us a national. It allows us to see how the company's tracking year on year, and it can give us, for example, looking at different segments of the market that they're competing in, different parts of their business, we can get a sense of which ones may have outsized performance or an outsized weighting on the company's success. And so I think, for example, there's a lot we can do with this. And so I think wrapping this all up, depending on what you want to pay for, you have some amazing opportunities within this platform to not only pull out a lot of what you might want in terms of the data, you've got the opportunity here to pull up some amazing proprietary KPI segment data that you're not going to get elsewhere, and it's all beautifully presented, it's all easy to use. You can make comparisons over, for example, the industry. You can get and pull up analyst expectations. You can pull up, for example, discounted cash flow models. And so there's huge, and if you want to pay for more, you can get access to all of these types of options here on the top level plan. Although yes, at about $80 a month, yes, it is pricey. Now, the FinChat is also a nice function here. So this is a combination of ChatGPT plus their financial database. Now, this is where I think you've also got some really cool options. And again, the more you pay, the more access to this feature and functionality you have. And for example, it's given a numeric answer, but it's also been able to pull up these other visuals here as well as it pulls out data from and it's also given us a whole load of related questions here as well. What's influenced them over the last decade? So here, for example, it should be able to pull up access earnings reports, access investor presentations, the company's news, press releases, Ks, for example. So it should be able to pull up quite a lot of information. Now, again, I think it's important to note as well that buyer beware, be careful of what you are looking at here and be careful of whether or not you can actually trust the answers it's giving you. It does provide, for example, the click button here for the source, so it gives you the sense that it's going to be drawing from particular items, and from this you should be able to trace it back to the original to put your hand on your heart and be confident in this data source. Now, is this particularly useful? You can probably pull up all of this and get your own as well, getting into the AI assistant here, but I think it could certainly make it a lot faster, particularly if you're trying to get to grips with a company you may not be familiar with. You can probe it with a lot of these AI questions to get a very good sense of that company very quickly. Increased emphasis on diversification, yeah, and again it's got a bit of data there. Now, what else do we have? We've also got some great charting functionalities. It's going to collapse the sidebar here with AI. Now, the way this is laid out reminds me very much of the ticker, the TIKR platform, and again we can compare, we can contrast, we can search over KPIs as well, which is pretty amazing. And so we can begin to break this down, we can begin to plot it here. It's all beautiful, it's all nice, it's all clean. I've not seen a platform like this that is easy to use. It allows us to make these comparisons quickly and easily and get such beautiful instant visuals for the company. Of course, you might be interested in making a comparison. So of course we can also then pull up different securities as well. Now the screener, from memory, I don't think there's too much here that I thought was innovative or fascinating. You can select country, industry function, exchange and screening criteria as well, and they've got a huge number set up there for you. So I think you can do quite a number of interesting options there. You can create a very nice screen as you go. Investors, you could, if you're interested in super investors, look at, of course, appears number one. Charlie Munger, I assume, might fall off this list at some point soon. Lilu is a Chinese foreign button. I'm seeing a lot of value investors here as well. Now, it's also got some interesting metrics here in terms of, say, turnover, as well as now you click on the super investor themselves, and you get stats as well. For example, the concentration here, the companies that they hold, as well as the filings that this information being from. Being aware, of course, that in the US they're required to make these filings for the US holding, but a holder, for example, may not appear or be represented here. So this, I would say, is probably an incomplete set of holdings for these super investors, so use it with caution. So earnings calendar. Oh, I've got to say, this is a bit. So who's actually on the list for earnings next week? You can scroll down, you can look, you can see, for example, realty income. I can search just for this realty income, and for example, it's got dates and times, and it hasn't done I think a pretty good job helping me out here because I haven't used this very well. But for example, if you've got particular companies you're interested in, particular portfolio, I think that could be very useful indeed. Resources. Now this is also where an advanced investor could follow value. So you've got formulas, you've got APIs as well. Now APIs give you some functionality that 99% of people will not use and don't seem to be available. Formulas, so this gives you a lot more insight into how exactly they calculate all of these metrics. And embed, kind of useful, kind of nice. You could actually show some pretty amazing items here if you have a website. Is this a good platform? Yes. Is it indispensable? Maybe not. Is it worth paying for the premium tranche here, the premium account type? And I've got to say maybe. I absolutely love the segments and KPIs. I've used this quite extensively to get a bit more insight into some of the businesses, particularly, for example, as we look at a company like Apple. Very simple sort of comparison here as well for services versus products revenue, and putting these into line charts, for example, we can see the service revenue here is increasing rate, whereas products revenue is a bit more cyclical with peaks and troughs as well. And so you can actually really also begin to look at all of the segments like this. And I like the ability to trends. So if I was going to be paying out for I would definitely be looking to purchase the highest account and try and use this as my only platform that I'm using. So I think it's absolutely amazing opportunity here for most investors, and of course you can add it to your dashboard, and so you can get all the information you want at your fingertips really quickly. So free cash flows, we can have a look at these analyst estimates, and so I think we've got some really powerful charting here. I love, again, it's quite a nice way of looking at things here, analysts as well. Price vision. So there's so much information, so much data here wrapped into this platform, locked away in this platform. I think the big question is, which level would you buy? Which type of account would you go for? Do you go all in, or do you go part way in, or do you use the free option here, which gives you very limited access to a lot of this information, but it may be enough for many investors to get the sense of where the company is now. That's a snapshot look at, say, the KPIs and segments. So let me know in the comments down below, is the FinChat platform the platform you were looking for? Is this something that's useful to you, something that you could live without, or is it something that you find absolutely fascinating? And no surprise, having heard me talk, I love the KPIs and segments and the ability to zoom into what a company's actually doing and how they're competing. The ability to break down, for example, revenue by different parts of the world, geography, for example. The ability to slice and dice and understand what's going on within the enterprise. I think that is what makes this platform very special and near and dear to my heart.